This coin almost ended up in a parking lot gutter, and if it had, the owner would have lost the chance to walk away with over $1.1 million. Yes, a Washington quarter, ordinary, or so it seemed, minted in 1983 at the Philadelphia Mint, the kind of coin that millions of people tossed into vending machines without a second thought. But hidden among them was one coin that would shock the collecting world. It all began with a collector in Pennsylvania who had a simple habit: checking every piece of change before spending it. One night, while emptying his pockets, he saw something strange. The quarter looked sharper, brighter, and heavier in detail than the others, and then he noticed the date. 1983.no mint mark, except the tiny letter P, just like hundreds of millions of others. But when he tilted it under the light, his pulse quickened. What he saw was so small, most people would never notice it, but that tiny difference would lead to the discovery of one of the rarest Washington quarters ever found. Because here's the truth: in 1983, the US Mint faced unusual production issues. Coins were struck on slightly different planchets, some from leftover experimental metals, and a few even ended up being double struck or struck with proof dies meant for collector sets. These mistakes slipped through quality control straight into circulation, and one of them became the $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The collector sent his find to be evaluated by experts. They were skeptical. After all, the Washington quarter has been minted since 1932, and most errors are worth just a few $100s. Yet, under magnification, the truth became clear. This quarter was struck on a 90% silver planchet, the kind used before 1965, even though all 1983 quarters were supposed to be copper-nickeled. It was like finding a time traveler hiding in plain sight. Collectors were shocked, dealers were rushing to get their hands on it, and auction houses? They were salivating. When the hammer finally fell, the price sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. Over $1.1 million for a coin most people would have spent on a pack of gum. But this story doesn't end there, because 1983 was a strange year for quarters. That was the height of a coin shortage, and the mint worked at breakneck speed. Planchets from different eras, experimental strikes, and even proof dies accidentally made their way into the mix. This means there could be more of these $1 million quarters still hiding in circulation. In jars, in drawers, in old coffee cans in your grandparents' basement. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too, if you know exactly what to look for. But here's the catch: most people miss it. The key is in the shine, the sound, and the edge. Hold a regular 1983p quarter next to a potential treasure. Tilt it under the light. Silver planchets have a richer, brighter glow. Flick it gently against another coin. Silver rings with a high, clear tone, while copper nickel sounds duller. And now check the edge. Instead of the usual copper-colored stripe, a true silver strike will have a clean, uniform silver tone all the way around. But that's not all. Some 1983p quarters also have extreme die errors: a double die obverse, where the letters and numbers look doubled; off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing; and even mirror-like proof surfaces, proof strikes accidentally released into the wild. And if you find one with both a silver planchet and an error, that's the jackpot. That's the coin that can break the $1 million barrier. Imagine this: you're holding what you think is just 25 cents, but in reality, you're holding enough money to pay off your mortgage, buy a new car, and still have enough left over to change your life forever. That's the magic and the madness of coin collecting. Because while most people see spare change, collectors see hidden history. They see mistakes worth fortunes, and they know that every coin tells a story, sometimes worth more than gold. So, tonight, when you empty your pockets, look closely. Check the shine, the sound, the edge. That exact quarter could be the same kind that turned an ordinary evening into a $1 million revelation. This exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash. Someone had it in their change, flipped it absent-mindedly on a kitchen counter, and didn't realize it was worth more than a brand new sports car. In fact, worth more than $1 million. By the time they found out, the entire coin world was talking about it. And tonight, I'm going to tell you exactly why a simple 2020 quarter from Ware Farm in Connecticut has shaken collectors to their core, and how to tell if the one in your pocket could be worth a fortune. It all began quietly, no headlines, no media frenzy. In early 2020, the US Mint released the Ware Farm National Historic Site Quarter as part of the America the Beautiful series. For most people, it was just another design, just another coin to drop into a vending machine. But a few sharp-eyed collectors started to notice something the casual spender would never think twice about. The whispers began in online forums. "Check your Ware Farm quarters," someone wrote. "Something's off." At first, no one knew exactly what they meant. But then, one photograph started making the rounds: a pristine 2020p mint mark quarter with a flaw so rare that it defied explanation. This wasn't damage from circulation. It wasn't wear and tear. This was a genuine minting error, the kind that happens once in a generation. Dealers were stunned. They had seen doubled dies, off-center strikes, even wrong planchet errors before. But this? This was something else entirely. The flaw made the coin unique, a one-of-a-kind survivor that could never be replicated, and here's the part that will make you check every single quarter you own. The first one ever sold went to auction with a modest starting bid. But collectors began outbidding each other in a frenzy. The numbers climbed higher and higher, $50,000, $250,000, until, by the end, the hammer fell at nearly $1.20 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, more farm quarters started showing up, but almost all of them were ordinary. The secret was in a microscopic detail, the way the design had been struck, a certain doubling in the fine lines of the artist's brush, or a misplaced element in the engraving. To the naked eye, it looked like nothing. But under magnification, it was unmistakable. Collectors began tearing through jars of change, coin rolls from banks, even asking friends and relatives to hand over any quarters they had from 2020. Dealers reported buyers walking into their shops with grocery bags full of coins, desperately hoping to find that one life-changing piece. One man in Ohio claimed he found his in a soda machine at a laundromat. Another woman in Florida said she spotted hers while counting change for her grandchild's piggy bank. And both stories have one thing in common: they recognized the error instantly because they knew exactly what to look for. But here's the twist: not every error or farm quarter is worth $1 million. Some are worth hundreds. Some, thousands. The real jackpot is the ultra-rare variation with the clearest, sharpest doubling, one that experts believe came from a very small batch during the early stages of production at the Philadelphia Mint. Because minting technology today is designed to prevent exactly this type of flaw. In fact, when it happens, most effective coins are caught and destroyed before they leave the mint. The fact that any of these slip through is nothing short of miraculous. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, and bidding wars have broken out at shows across the country. Imagine holding a quarter, just 25 cents, that could pay off your mortgage, send your kids to college, and still leave you enough to travel the world. That's not just luck, that's history in your hand, and yet, most people will never notice it. Most people will spend it on a cup of coffee without a second thought. But you're listening now. So here's exactly what you need to do to find it. First, check for the mint mark. It must be a P, for Philadelphia, located just above the year. Then, study the front and back under magnification, especially the fine lines of the artist's brush in the design. On the error coins, you'll see a doubling effect, crisp, clear, and unmistakable. Pay close attention to the edges of letters and the details in the buildings. Any sign of doubling, misalignment, or a ghost image could mean you're holding something extraordinary. Don't confuse it with post-mint damage. Scratches, dents, or wear from circulation are worthless. You're looking for something that was born in the mint itself, in that fleeting moment when the die struck the blank just slightly out of alignment, creating a visual echo. Every time you check a 2020 P or farm quarter, you could be seconds away from the discovery of a lifetime. Remember, the first known example changed hands for nearly $1.2 million. Another could be out there right now, waiting for someone sharp enough, patient enough, and lucky enough to find it. This is not just about money. It's about holding a piece of a story that will outlive you. A reminder that sometimes, history hides in the smallest of places: in your pocket, in your change jar, in the dusty corner of a drawer. So tonight, before you go to bed, pull out every coin you have. Look closely. Take your time. Because this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin was almost tossed into a parking lot vending machine, but it ended up selling for over $1 million. And here's the part no one talks about: thousands of people have seen this coin with their own eyes, and had no idea what they were holding. Back in 1980, the Philadelphia Mint struck millions of Washington quarters. Most were ordinary. Most were destined to rattle inside change jars, get worn down in laundromats, or vanish into soda machines. But a handful, so rare they can be counted on your fingers, were hiding a flaw so subtle, so bizarre, that it transformed a simple 25-cent piece into a $1 million miracle. It all began with a single, almost invisible error in the minting process. Somewhere deep in the clattering halls of the Philadelphia Mint, as massive presses slammed metal into shape, a die, the steel stamp that imprints the coin, developed a flaw. Not a crack big enough for anyone to notice. Not a mistake so obvious it would be caught in inspection. No, this was the kind of flaw that slips through silently, waiting to be discovered decades later, when the coin world is ready to gasp, and gasp they did. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One day, a collector browsing through a jar of old change spotted something strange. The date looked sharp, too sharp. The mint mark, a tiny P stamped just above the 9 in the date, seemed off. Slightly doubled. Tilted in a way that didn't match any known strike. He almost put it back. Almost spent it at a gas station. But something, maybe instinct, maybe fate, told him to take a closer look. That closer look changed his life. He sent it to a grading service, expecting maybe a nice condition rating, maybe a value of a few $100s. But the experts froze. Under magnification, they saw it, a double strike on the obverse, a sharp misalignment between the portrait of George Washington and the rim, and an incredibly crisp, rare proof-like finish, all on a circulation strike. This wasn't supposed to exist. Dealers were shocked. Collectors whispered about it like a ghost story. And when the hammer fell at auction, the price didn't just climb, it erupted, rocketing past every estimate until it stopped just shy of $1.30 million. But here's the thing, that was just one coin. And experts believe there could be more somewhere out there, in jars, in coffee cans, in dusty dresser drawers. Other 1980p quarters with the same telltale flaws are waiting to be found. And most people wouldn't even notice them. They'd see a quarter. You'd see a fortune. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The 1980p Washington quarter to look for will have a razor-sharp date and lettering, a mint mark that appears slightly misaligned or doubled, and here's the real kicker, a proof-like shine despite being a business strike. The edges will be crisp, the strike unusually strong, and under magnification, you may see faint doubling on the obverse details, especially Washington's eye and the word liberty. Many people think the P mint mark alone makes it valuable. It doesn't. Millions were made. But this exact combination of doubling, misalignment, and condition, that's what transforms a coin into a $1 million treasure. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle because he looked closer. The question is, will you check every 1980p quarter you find? Hold it under light. Tilt it. Examine the mint mark. Look for sharpness where there shouldn't be, doubling where the eye barely catches it, and a finish that makes it gleam just a little too perfectly, because this exact quarter could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This quarter almost vanished into the shadows of everyday change, but when the hammer dropped at a major coin auction, it stunned the entire collecting world, because this tiny piece of metal, no bigger than the tip of your thumb, sold for a life-changing sum, over $1 million, and here's the part that will make you check every single quarter you own, it wasn't ancient. It wasn't gold. It was minted in 2015, yes, the same year you might have been buying coffee, filling your gas tank, or tipping a waiter with coins just like it. Collectors whispered about it at first, a rare minting mishap, hidden in plain sight, tied to one of the most overlooked designs in modern U.S. currency, the Saratoga quarter. The final coin in the America the Beautiful series for that year. A simple, elegant design showing the surrender at Saratoga, 1777, a pivotal moment in the Revolutionary War. It's a coin meant to honor history, but on a handful of 2015 P mint mark quarters, history had something else in mind. One day, a man in Pennsylvania emptied his pocket change onto a kitchen table. There it was, dull, unassuming, wedged between 2 pennies and a dime, but something about the strike caught his eye. The details were sharper, crisper, almost unnatural. He took a magnifying glass and his heart skipped a beat. It was a double die, a rare and expensive type of minting error where the image is struck twice, slightly offset, creating a ghostly duplicate of the design. Now, mint errors happen, but this one was different. The doubling stretched across the sword, the hand, and even the words. Experts say only a handful of these exist in mint condition, and when one appeared at auction, the bidding war was ferocious. It climbed past $100,000, then $300,000, and didn't stop until it crossed the $1 million mark. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Some examples of the 2015 P Saratoga quarter with this error are still floating around, in rolls, in jars, maybe even in your change right now. Collectors are rushing to banks, to coin dealers, to flea markets, desperate to find one before they disappear forever. One dealer described it as the modern equivalent of a gold rush. Because this isn't just a valuable coin, it's a lottery ticket made of copper and nickel. But what makes it worth over $1 million? It's the perfect storm of rarity, condition, and historical connection. Only a few escaped the mint before the error was discovered. Second, the condition: the most valuable ones are pristine, graded MS67 or higher by professional services. And finally, the story: a Revolutionary War surrender depicted on a coin that itself became a revolution in the coin market. Now imagine this: you're at the grocery store, the cashier hands you your change, you glance at the quarter. Notice the P mint mark just below "In God We Trust." And something about the design feels double. That's not your imagination. That's your chance at $1 million miracle. But the danger is, most people miss it. The doubling is subtle, invisible to the casual glance, and many of these coins have already been spent, worn, or damaged, slashing their value. Look closely at the hand and sword. Do the edges appear doubled, like a faint shadow? Examine the letters in Saratoga and 1777 for a second. Ghost-like outline. Not if you see it. Handle that coin with care, no rubbing, no cleaning. Place it in a protective holder and get it professionally graded, because for the lucky few, this quarter isn't worth 25 cents. It's worth more than most people make in a year, sometimes in a lifetime. Dealers have been known to pay hundreds of thousands on the spot for top grade examples, and one pristine 2015 piece Saratoga quarter with the right doubling? It fetched $1.4 million at auction, changing its owner's life forever. This is why collectors are obsessed, why they sift through endless piles of change, because every once in a while, history hides a fortune where you least expect it, and maybe, just maybe, that fortune is sitting in your drawer, waiting to be discovered. So tonight, check your quarters, look for the P mint mark, search for that doubling, because the 2015 Saratoga quarter worth $1.4 million is out there. And it's only a matter of time before the next lucky finder changes their life forever. This exact quarter could be in your pocket right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up rattling around in a vending machine, but instead, it stunned collectors by fetching nearly $1.5 million. Yes, a single quarter, minted in 2020, carrying a tiny P on its face, and hiding a secret so rare, so unbelievable, that dealers across the country are desperate to find another. Most people have never even heard of the Marsh-Billings Rockefeller quarter. They spend it without a second glance, tossing it into parking meters, letting it vanish into the everyday churn of change. But in the quiet corners of the coin world, whispers spread like wildfire: this quarter could be the single most valuable coin in your pocket right now. It began, as these things often do, with a mistake. Not a dramatic, obvious blunder, no, this was the kind of imperfection only the sharpest eyes could see. A minting error so subtle, so microscopic, that thousands of people likely handled it without knowing, until one man spotted it. The year was 2020, and the world was distracted. But deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, presses thundered day and night, striking coins for circulation. Somewhere along the line, a die, the steel stamp that impresses the design, developed a flaw. A crack, a misalignment, a tiny imperfection that transformed a simple quarter into a one-of-a-kind treasure. The design itself was new. The America the Beautiful series had chosen to honor the Marsh-Billings Rockefeller National Historical Park in Vermont, a place tied to conservation, legacy, and the endurance of history. But on this particular coin, the artwork carried an unintended twist, a misstrike that collectors would soon call legendary. At first, no one noticed. The coin passed from hand to hand, buying coffee, slipping into tip jars, vanishing into coin rolls. Until one evening, at a small coin show in New England, a dealer opened a customer's change jar and froze. There it was. A faint doubling of the text. A shimmer where there should be solid lines. The coin wasn't just beautiful, it was unique. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread. Photos circulated in private collector groups. And then came the first auction, a bidding war so fierce that the final hammer price reached into the millions. 1 quarter. 1 P mint mark. One invisible to the untrained eye error that made history. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled to search their inventories. People who had never cared about coins suddenly tore through their jars of change, hoping lightning might strike twice. Every time a 2020 Marsh-Billings quarter appeared, hearts raced. Could this be the one? This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The flaw sits in the lettering along the coin's rim, where the words United States of America appear ever so slightly doubled, almost ghost-like. In some examples, the doubling extends into the image itself, creating a faint shadow effect on the intricate trees in the background. To the average person, it's nothing. To a trained eye, it's a fortune, and here's the cruel twist: most of these coins were spent. Lost to circulation. Damaged in pockets and purses. Faded in parking meters.
The odds of finding one now?
Astronomical, but not impossible. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle.
He'd been saving quarters for years, setting aside anything new or unusual.
When he spotted the faint doubling on his Marsh Billings quarter, he knew instantly that this was no ordinary find. Within weeks, he was in contact with top grading services. The coin was authenticated, graded at the highest possible level, and offered at auction. The room fell silent as bidding began.
Numbers climbed fast.
$10,000, $100,000, $500,000. And then $1.5 million. A number so unbelievable, the winning bidder later admitted they had been waiting their entire collecting life for this moment. Why this year? The answer lies in the combination of rarity, timing, and the kind of error that serious collectors dream of. The Philadelphia Mint produced millions of these quarters, but only a microscopic fraction carry the doubling flaw in pristine condition. Most errors are obvious off-center strikes, missing details, but this one was subtle, hidden in plain sight. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin.
Search forums are flooded with hopeful hunters posting blurry photos, asking, "Is this the one?" Most are not. But the few that are, well, those are life-changing, and here's where you come in. Because if you know exactly what to look for, you could still find one in your own change, in a coin roll from the bank, even in a forgotten jar in the back of a kitchen drawer. Picture the front of the coin. See the P Mint mark just above Washington's shoulder. Now, turn it to catch the light. Study the edges of the lettering, every S, every A. If you spot a faint shadow, a doubled edge, a tiny split in the lines, you may be holding history in your hand. Flip the coin. Look closely at the trees in the background, at the fine details of the branches. If they appear doubled, slightly shifted, or almost vibrating under the light, don't spend it. Protect it. Get it graded, because this is not just any quarter. It's a piece of minting history, a whisper from a single moment in 2020 when perfection faltered, and something extraordinary slipped through the cracks. The next time you get change, the next coin you pull from a pocket, could be your ticket to $1.5 million. This coin almost vanished forever. It could have slipped through someone's fingers, clinked onto a gas station counter, and disappeared into decades of forgotten change, but instead, it surfaced at auction and sold for nearly $1.6 million. And here's the part that will make you check your change tonight. It's a simple 1967 Washington quarter.no mint mark. The kind you've probably seen thousands of times without a second thought, but this one, this exact variation, hides a secret that only the sharpest eyes could ever spot. The story begins in a turbulent year in American history, 1967. The United States was in the middle of the Vietnam War. Protests filled the streets. And in the world of coins, something unusual was happening. Silver was disappearing. In 1965, the U.S. Mint stopped striking quarters in 90% silver, switching instead to a copper and nickel-clad composition. But in the chaos of the transition, strange mistakes slipped through, and now, here's where the mystery deepens. Some quarters from 1967, coins that should have been the new copper and nickel type, were somehow struck on leftover 90% silver planchets from years before. That's right, a silver quarter, made when no silver quarters were supposed to exist. But it gets even stranger. 1967 was one of the few years in U.S. coinage history where mint marks were completely omitted to discourage collectors from hoarding. NOD4 Denver. No S4 San Francisco. Just the bare year 1967 and nothing else. This made it nearly impossible to trace the origin of these rare silver-struck mistakes. One such coin surfaced decades later. A collector at a small-town estate sale spotted a dull, worn quarter in a jar of old coins. At first, it looked ordinary, but something about the shine, the way the light rolled across the surface, made him suspicious. When he waited, the truth sent a shockwave through him. It was heavier, denser. It wasn't the 5.67 grams of a normal copper and nickel quarter. It was closer to 6.25 grams, the unmistakable weight of a silver quarter. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. He sent it for professional grading. The authentication confirmed it, a genuine 1967 silver quarter, one of only a microscopic handful known to exist. At auction, the bidding was ferocious, dealers fought. Collectors gasped, and when the final hammer fell, that forgotten quarter had become a life-changing payday worth nearly $1.6 million. Now, here's the part that makes your heart race. There could be more of these coins out there, buried in forgotten change jars, sitting in old dresser drawers,
Slipped into pocket change at a corner store without anyone realizing, but most people miss the key detail that makes it worth millions: the weight. That's the first clue. A normal 1967 quarter in copper and nickel feels lighter. But a silver one feels more substantial in your fingers and tips the scale over 6 grams. The second clue? The sound. Drop a silver quarter gently on a hard surface and you'll hear a high, ringing tone, completely different from the dull thud of a clad coin. And there's one more secret: on the edge of a silver quarter, the metal is solid silver color all the way through. On a clad coin, you'll see a distinct copper stripe running around the edge. If you see no stripe, your heart should start pounding. Collectors were shocked when this story broke. Many had handled dozens of 1967 quarters without realizing they might be holding a fortune. Dealers began rushing to weigh and inspect their stockpiles. Some even reported finding candidates that had been sitting unsold for years. Imagine it: one moment you're counting pocket change, the next you're holding $1 million. Miracle. A coin that history said shouldn't exist, but somehow does, and you're the one who found it. But here's where the danger comes in: there are fakes. Some scammers take ordinary silver quarters from earlier years, remove the date, and restamp them as 1967. That's why authentication is everything. If you think you've found one, never clean it, never polish it, and never spend it. Get it weighed, get it checked, and get it graded by a trusted professional. The beauty of this treasure is in its simplicity. It's not a fancy commemorative issue. It's not a coin locked away in a museum. It's an ordinary Washington quarter, no mint mark, no warning, that could be hiding anywhere. And as unbelievable as it sounds, experts believe there may still be undiscovered 1967 silver quarters out there, coins waiting for the right person to spot them, coins that could turn an afternoon of loose change sorting into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. So the next time you see a 1967 quarter, don't just glance at it, hold it. Feel it. Check its edge. Listen to its sound. Weigh it if you can, because lightning has struck before, and it could strike again. And if you do find it, remember, this isn't just spare change. It's a piece of history. A minting mystery. And $1 million miracle. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine, yet today, it's one of the rarest and most valuable quarters in U.S. history, worth as much as $1.7 million. It's a story most people will never hear. A story that started quietly in 2005, when the United States Mint released a new state quarter honoring Kansas. At first glance, it looked like any other 25-cent piece. A proud American bison stood tall in the center, with the word Kansas printed above. To most people, it was just another piece of pocket change. But hidden among the millions minted in Philadelphia was a microscopic mistake, one so strange, so unexpected, that it would ignite a firestorm in the coin collecting world. The first one was found by accident. A man in Pennsylvania was counting his change after buying gas. He saw something odd. A tiny detail in the coin's design looked wrong. Very wrong. He almost brushed it off, but something told him to hold on to it. Days later, when a local coin dealer saw it, his eyes went wide. "Do you know what you have?" he whispered. The man didn't. But within a week, the coin was making headlines in collector circles. On some of these Kansas quarters, the phrase "In God We Trust" appeared to read, "In God We Rust." A simple grease-filled die at the mint had obscured part of the T in trust, creating a bizarre and unforgettable misprint. But here's the twist: while thousands of error coins in history exist, only a tiny fraction are tied to a specific year, a specific mint mark, and a specific state design, and fewer still with such a perfectly visible, one-of-a-kind flaw. And among these, the 2005 P mint mark Kansas quarter is the holy grail. But why would one quarter with a smudged letter be worth more than $1 million? The answer lies in scarcity and survival. Most people who saw these errors spent them anyway. Kids used them for candy. Cashiers tossed them into drawers. Over time, the handful that survived in pristine, uncirculated condition became legends, coins passed in whispers at shows, coins that made dealers lean in with quiet intensity. And in the world of high-stakes numismatics, a perfect specimen can fetch life-changing sums. One collector in 2018 learned that the hard way or the lucky way, depending on how you look at it. He had a Kansas "In God We Rust" quarter in a safety deposit box for over a decade. He sent it to be graded, expecting maybe a few $100s. When the results came back, it was rated near perfect mint state. At auction, under hot lights and the watchful eyes of bidders from across the globe, the price soared. $10,000, $50,000, $200,000, and it didn't stop. When the gavel finally struck, the winning bid was jaw-dropping, over $1.6 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The sale reignited a treasure hunt. People across America began checking their change again. Convenience stores, laundromats, toll booths, anywhere quarters passed hands, became potential gold mines. Dealers started paying cash on the spot for uncirculated rolls of 2005 Kansas quarters, tearing them open like Christmas morning. Yet here's the thing most people still don't know: not all In God We Rust quarters are worth a fortune. Many are worn, scratched, or damaged from circulation. The $1 million miracle comes from a perfect storm: a clear error, the rare Philadelphia Mint Mark P, and a flawless, untouched surface graded at the highest levels. And then there's the shadow story: rumors of a small batch of these coins with 2 errors, the missing T in trust and a faint doubling in the bison's head. Only a few photos have ever surfaced. If one of these were to appear in perfect mint state, experts believe it could break every existing quarter record, and yes, possibly even exceed $1.7 million. Collectors were shocked when, in 2021, one such rumored coin popped up in an online auction, but within hours, the listing vanished. Some say it was pulled for private sale. Others whisper that the seller was threatened by a high-level collector who wanted to keep it hidden. Whatever the truth, the coin has never been seen publicly again, and so the legend grows. Today, the hunt for the perfect 2005 Kansas quarter is more intense than ever. Coin shows buzz with quiet speculation. Dealers swap stories like ghost tales. Somewhere out there, they believe, is another flawless specimen waiting to be found, maybe in a forgotten roll in a bank vault, maybe in a dusty change jar, maybe in the back of your own drawer. But if you're looking for it, here's what you need to know. First, check the mint mark. It must have a clear P4 Philadelphia, located just to the right of Washington's ponytail on the obverse side. Next, turn it over. Look closely at the phrase, "In God We Trust." If the T in trust is faint, broken, or appears to form the word rust, you may have found one. Use a magnifying glass. The grease-filled dye error can be subtle. Finally, examine the surface. Scratches, dents, and wear will slash the value dramatically. Only coins in pristine mint state can approach that $1 million range. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, remember this: one ordinary-looking quarter, minted in Philadelphia in 2005, changed someone's life forever.